So in this video we're going to be working on multiplication and division of rational numbers again. Remember that when we're dealing with these worksheets we want to look at the targets. So our targets here are, can we multiply integers and decimals? Can we multiply integers with fractions? And can we divide both decimals and fractions when we're dealing with positive and negative numbers? So that's what we're going to be trying to work on. So remember the rules when you're multiplying or dividing and the signs are different, you get a negative answer. If the signs are the same, you get a positive answer. So here you're dividing and the signs happen to be the same, you're going to get a positive answer there. So let's just do one of these. Negative 3 over 4 divided by negative 1/3. The rules are when I'm dividing, I reciprocate and I change to a multiplication. And now the signs are the same. I get a positive answer and I get 9 over 4 because we multiply the numerators and then we multiply the denominators. And then I say how many times does 4 go into 9? It goes in twice with 1 left over, and my answer remains positive. Let's erase that and try another one. Let's do C. So negative 1/3 multiplied by negative 3 over 4. Signs are the same, I get a positive answer. I'm already multiplying, so I can multiply the numerators. I can multiply the denominators. Now again, multiplication of fractions are different than adding and subtracting. I do not need a common denominator when I'm multiplying or dividing like I do when I'm adding and subtracting. So don't get those rules mixed up. And then I look at my answer of positive 4 over 9. I realize that both those numbers, that's a reduced fraction, so my answer is done. Now we'll move on to number 7. So it's asking you to do this without a calculator. So again, when you're dividing numbers, decimals, right? If we don't have a calculator, the rule is we're going to move the decimal one place here. We'll move the decimal one place there, and then I would just rewrite this. It makes it a lot easier. You do not want a decimal inside of your dividend or your divisor. So we'll move the decimal place, make it easier, but what I do to the outside I must do to the inside. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm just multiplying by 10 here, moving it one place, so I'll multiply by 10 here, and I move it one place. Then I just do normally, how many times does 4 go into 3? It does not. Then I bring the decimal up. We want to line those decimal places up like I do adding and subtracting. How many times does 4 go into 32 now? And it goes in 8 times. And there's nothing else, so I'm done. So my answer is 0.8. And now let's just check again to make sure that our signs are the same or correct. Positive divided by a positive, they're the same. My answer has to be a positive 0.8. Let's erase that and try another one. Let's do D. And same idea, we're going to write negative, negative. Okay, I will rewrite this. And all I did was I moved the decimal. Now I'm going a negative divided by a negative. My answer will be a positive. And now I don't really need to worry about the signs anymore. So I'll go negative 2 divided by 1. It doesn't go in. Negative 2, sorry, 10 divided by 2 is going to be 5. Bring down the 2. Bring up the decimal place. Keep them lined up. And 2 goes into 2 once, with the 0 left over. So my answer is going to be positive 5.1. Now again, we're going to be using calculators for most of these, but that's just kind of a review of how you are multiplying and dividing positive and negative decimals. So on these, you can check, make sure that you're using your calculator correctly. I wouldn't be punching in the sign. I would just divide the numbers normally and then go positive or negative, and a negative will give me a positive answer. A positive and a negative will give me a negative answer. And then just use your calculator to do the actual dividing, but don't be punching in positive and negative signs. Give yourself the practice that you need on that. And then down here, we will say 5 over 4 divided by negative 7 over 6. I will rewrite this as a multiplication statement where I reciprocate the fraction, and now I can multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and I get negative 30 over 28, which is negative 1 and 2 over 28, which I've ran out of room, so let's see if I can move it. Divide by 2, divided by 2, negative 1, that never changes, 1 over 14, because I divided by 2 on both sides. And my answer is negative 1 and 1 over 14. Let me just clear some of that up. Okay, and we'll do one more question. Let's pick that guy. So first thing I'll do is convert. I'll go 5 times 4 plus 3. So 5 times 4 is 20, plus 3 is 23 over 5. I put the negative out in front. Don't make the mistake of doing 5 times negative 4. I don't want to do that. It's just 5 times 4. I'm going to divide that by 3 over 4. I have to rewrite that as negative 23 over 5. Multiply by this reciprocal. I can now multiply the numerators. So a negative and a positive is a negative number. 23 times 4 is 92. And I will divide that by 15. A negative will be my answer. 15 goes in 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. So it goes in 6 times with 2 over 15 left over. And there's my reduced answer. So on this side here, same idea, but the targets are a bit different. The targets wants you to find the missing value. So missing value of some integers, and the missing values when you're dividing. So the rules will be the same. All you're going to do is use some algebra skills. So I'll make that kind of larger. So here, I want to, what number divided by 1.25 will give me negative 3.6. I do algebra and I go opposite of divide is multiply, so I can multiply both sides by 1.25 to get my answer. So it's negative 3.6 multiplied by 1.25, and I'll get a negative answer because a negative and a positive will give me a negative. Here I'm going to multiply by negative 3 over 4 on both sides, and that will get my answer. And on these ones here, the exact same thing, but we need to be careful because it's in a reverse order. So when I look at questions like this, it's hard for me to remember, am I dividing or multiplying? How is that going to work? It doesn't work like these ones where you're multiplying or dividing by the second number. You happen to be dividing by an unknown. So if I looked at an example like 10 divided by 2 equaled 5, and I don't know what this number is, which is the very same as this one, I look at a question very similar, and I say, well, what could I do? How can I make 5 and 10? How do I make a 2 out of it? Because if that rule applies, if I can figure out the rule to find out how I made the 2 out of 5 and 10, then I can use the exact same logic to find this second number, because this is the second number here. So if I look at these two numbers, it makes sense if I go 10 divided by 5, that actually gives me 2, which is that number there. I can apply the exact same logic here, and I can say, well, in this logic, I took the first number and I divided it by the second number, or sorry, the number on the right hand side, to give me my unknown. Now that's a bit complicated. I guess the whole reason I was showing you that is when I'm doing questions, I always try to think of the easiest question I can think of. How do I solve an easy question that I know the answer to without doubt, and then I apply it to something more complicated like 17C. So again, if that's a little confusing, come see me and I'll show you some more examples. So I'm going to move this up. And same idea here. Look at this guy. What number, or what number divided by, 1.25 negative divided by what number will give me 0.2? It's the same logic as 10 divided by what number will give me 2. Well, we know this answer is 5. But if I don't know it, because obviously this answer is a lot more challenging, I can take this number divided by that number to give me 5. So let's take this number divided by this number, and I'll get that number. And that's how a lot of these questions will work. And for the word problems, you're just going to have to kind of work through these. Again, you're dealing with integers, you're dealing with decimals. It could be an adding, subtracting, multiplication, division question. Read the question, try to figure it out logically. Is it an adding question, a multiplication question? And then show all the work when possible. If they owe money or they pay back money, one's a negative, one's a positive. Just be cautious of that. So hopefully that helped. If you have any questions, please come see me.